there are all these instances recently of kids, teenagers, overdosing at schools. How do you talk to your kids, your teenagers about this? Well, we're going to talk about today on Tips on Teens. My name is Kent Toussaint. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in helping kids, teens, and families live happier lives. I lead two organizations, Teen Therapy Center and the nonprofit 501c3 organization, Child and Teen Counseling, both here in Woodland Hills, California. Every Wednesday at noon, I jump onto Facebook Live to answer your parenting questions. Let's answer today's. I keep hearing about kids overdosing at school. I can think of at least 2 incidents this month at local schools near me. I think of my kids and I'm just terrified. How do I effectively talk to my children about the dangers of drugs without them tuning me out? Thank you for your question. I think every parent can relate to this one. All of us have been impacted by drug abuse, drug addiction, either in our own lives or people close to us. We've seen the damage that it causes, and it's terrifying and helpless to see your kid go through that. And so what I would recommend is, let's assume we're talking about teenagers right here. You're talking about middle school age kids, high school age kids, and you want them to understand the dangers of using drugs. First of all, again, I know we talk about this all the time, but the importance of connection, the importance of safety and trust within the family, of having that communication. Hopefully this is not the first time you're talking about this. Hopefully you've been talking about this since they were little kids at an age-appropriate level. Another way to think about this also is it's not just about talking about drugs, it's talking about everything, how we treat ourselves. What we put in our bodies matters. Now, all of us could probably eat healthier. I know I could, but I eat a lot healthier than I used to because I have kids and I'm more aware of that now. So if your family, if there's a culture of a lot of cheap fast food all the time, you're communicating to your kids that it doesn't really matter what you put in your food, in your body. It just matters that it tastes good and it fills you up. Well, that can also create an environment of, well, it doesn't matter what I smoke or what I drink, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So I think it's important that the conversation can really start there with how we take care of our body, how we exercise in a healthy way, how we eat in a healthy way, in moderation. Again, I'm not saying you can't have ice cream occasionally. We all love ice cream, but it's a sometimes food, right? Just like cheeseburgers. It's a sometimes food. If you're having cheeseburgers every day of the week, I'm sure your doctor would want to talk to you about that. So that's one part of it. Another part is when you sit down and talk to your kids, make sure that you're comfortable talking about these things. Then they go, yeah, whatever. Bring, these instances, these news are, hey, this happened in this local middle school where, a number of middle school kids OD'd on edibles. And do you understand what this can do to you? Because again, teenagers do not make great decisions. It's not their fault. It's part of their brain development. Their brain isn't fully developed until they're 25. So it's important to talk about how drugs can affect someone from an edible. Because when edible, you eat it and you don't feel it for a while until maybe an hour later, then it hits you really strongly. Whereas if you smoke a joint, you're feeling that pretty quickly. And a lot of 14-year-olds aren't going to be aware of that. And they're going to say, well, I told you to eat more. What's the problem? They're not recognizing the effects. But if there's a culture of talking about health and taking care of one's body, it's more part of the culture of the family, and they're more open to this conversation, hopefully. Again, assuming you guys have a strong connection and a trust there. If you don't, that's the first thing. But we talk about it a lot, so I'm going to assume you have some of that connection and trust already. Bring data. There's lots of information online about the effects of drugs and alcohol. I'd also want you to talk to your kids about safety. If they do use, can they come to you and tell you? Or are you going to get angry and mad? If you get angry, there's no incentive for them to tell you. If you say, hey, I'll be disappointed if you do it, but I'll be thankful that you told me. Therefore, I can help guide you. I can help support you when you are in over your head, perhaps. Same thing like if your kid goes to a party and they've drank and they can't drive home, or their designated driver is drunk or high. Is it safe to call you? No questions asked. And are they not going to get in trouble for that? Because if they're going to get in trouble, there's no incentive to tell you. It's better to, from their point of view, to get in the car and drive home and risk it, which is not really what our kids do. So age appropriate. Again, if your kid's 14, 15, I say you start being really direct with them. Even 13, start being direct, because they're already aware of this stuff. It's out there on the internet. They're talking about it on campus. They're talking about it in social media. Drugs, especially weed, is a very common part of our society now. And trying to skirt around it is not really going to help your kid. Let's see, what am I forgetting? I think I'm forgetting something really major. But again, it's connection, it's directness, it's giving them material they can talk about. If you feel like they need to talk to someone else that's not you, have them talk to your doctor or a therapist or someone else who is knowledgeable. If there's like a really cool uncle or cousin or aunt that they trust, who you feel can impart this information to them better than you, and they'll trust more, enlist that aunt or that uncle or that cousin or whatever that is. Make this a team approach. Silence and secrets, that's where drug abuse and addiction really festers. The more you talk about these things, same thing with sex. If you're talking about sex and healthy sex and the attitude towards sex and consent, all these things, more often kids make better choices. It's a big conversation. I could lead a whole 1-hour workshop on this. It's big. If you want more information on this, feel free to give us a call. Again, my name is Kent Toussaint with Teen Therapy Center and Child and Teen Counseling. If you'd like me to answer your question here on Tips on Teens, email us at tipsonteens@teentherapycenter.com. This is serious business. Drugs are very serious. Usually you can get your kid through adolescence without a lot of drug use and alcohol use. They're probably not going to go down the path of addiction. At least it reduces dramatically. Most addicts get involved in drugs and alcohol in their adolescence. And that's why it's really important to talk about them at this stage of the game. Anyways, thanks again, guys. I'll see you next Wednesday with your question. Thank you. Have a good week. Bye-bye, guys.